might have been well advised just to let her keep talking. Things that I want to say, thanks that I want to express, could probably be expressed certainly more eloquently and more credibly by someone with Gail's heart for kids, her commitment, the skill she's about to bring to bear on the single most important thing we can do for the future of this state. So, Gail, when I thank you, I'm thanking all of your Wilson Fellows to be, your Wilson colleagues, and of course we're here to thank those who have followed parallel tracks before them in Teach for America and the New Teacher Project as it lives here in Indianapolis. Back in the school, I'm thinking about that moment somewhere back there where the oldest of the four Daniels girls said to me one night, "Dad, I'm having trouble. Can you help me with this math problem?" I said, "Well, what's the difficulty?" She says, "I'm just totally stumped. I don't know where to start." I said, "Well, look, Megan, I'm not going to do it for you. It'd be wrong." She said, I know that, but would you try anyway?" You need a minute on that one? It is neither wrong in the sense that it's inappropriate, nor will we get the answer wrong. That people come to the project of offering the opportunity to realize their potential to every Hoosier kid. You know, if war is too important to be left to the generals, then education is too important to be left to the educrats. And so the emergence of Teach for America, the New Teacher Project, and now the Wilson Fellows Program, I think are some of the most exciting and certainly important developments anywhere in America. And I'm just grateful to everybody who has helped us to make these programs a home in Indiana. Thank you, President Cordova. What a statement that the president of our flagship school in this state, Purdue University, came here today. I hope that each of the new teachers or teachers-to-be will meet this outstanding woman, one of America's most renowned scientists in her own right, and now the president of one of America's and the world's high-tech universities on its way to greater things. But in your schedule, that you would make time for this says a lot, France, and I appreciate it very much. I know everybody else here does too. You know, a new era in public education began. Took some people by surprise. They didn't see it coming. And it began 16 days ago when I signed the Budget Act that brought to a close a special session. The legislature didn't get it right the first time, and so we hit the reset button and got a pretty good outcome. Today, as a matter of fact, the auditor of the state is reporting that Indiana is one of those few solvent states paying its bills, money in the bank as a protection against the continuing recession, and not raising taxes, not slashing vital services like education. But years from now, I think people will look back on that bill and think not as a financial breakthrough, but as an education breakthrough, because within its pages came some of the most far-reaching and fundamental changes, at least opening the door to those changes, that our state has ever seen. And they are way overdue. A member of the legislature who was not pleased with that outcome apparently made the statement, I was asked about it, that this means the end of public education as we know it. So I was asked the morning after to react to that statement. Does it mean the end of public education as we know it? And on the spur of the moment, I said, I sure hope so. Public education as we know it has got to change, has got to end, if you will, and give way to a new system utterly committed to results, utterly committed to accountability, and committed more than anything else to the success, the academic success of the young people on whom the future of our state and every state depends. And in that budget bill, we did some things which friends of education and educational reform nationwide, starting with the President of the United States and his Secretary of Education, are calling for very loudly. We have ended the cap on charter schools like this one. I hope they will blossom all over this state. We're going to do everything we can to make that happen. We have ended a prehistoric rule that said you couldn't look at the achievement, the test score achievement of the students as even one factor. If you had 1,000 such factors, as even one factor in deciding whether you had a good teacher or an inadequate teacher in that classroom. I've often said to some of my friends, imagine that we took our kids to the Y to learn to swim. In lanes 1, 2, and 3, the kids are backstroking and butterflying effortlessly back and forth. In 4 and 5, they're getting along okay, and they're all in lane 6, they're drowning, and we have to jump in and save them. Sooner or later, someone would say, get the guy in lane 6 doing something else other than teaching swimming. That same budget bill also, in a very modest way, offered new incentives so that the lowest incomes families in our state, if it's their choice, might choose to educate their children in some place other than the public schools altogether. That's a matter of justice, it's a civil rights issue as far as I'm concerned. All those things happened 16 days ago, and I think augur well for what will come next. But everybody in this room, and most people far more knowledgeably than I knows that the single most effective thing we can do, the single most critical variable in improving the life prospects of our young people is teacher quality. If we could only get one thing right, that would be it. And that's what these 3 programs that we honor today were each created in such similar fashion, out of such similar motivation to do. And that's why I wanted to have an event that honor of, first of all, those of you who have accepted the challenge and in many cases the sacrifice to become teachers yourself. We are here to recognize and thank you for your compassion and your idealism. It is an inspiring thing each time I meet a TFA veteran, a Wilson Fellow, somebody who has seen this as a calling in life that was more important than the goals that animate so many other people. The statistics are so familiar that they are now cliches. We know what a good teacher or a string of good teachers means to a child's future. We also know what a string of bad teachers means. As far as I know, the data has never wavered. A child with 3 consecutive substandard teachers has almost no chance of catching up, no matter what is done later on. Now think about it. Think of the oceans of money we spend and should spend on the children we call disabled. And yet, ironically, we are disabling, in the most literal sense I can think of, millions of children a year in this country by not providing them a world-class or first-class teacher on a consistent basis. That has just got to end. And you are the people who are going to help us end it. We must not stop. We won't, at least while it's our assignment, until we can say that in Indiana, every child, every year, every class had a teacher who knew what they were talking about and how to get it across. I know that when I look at these faces, this is the picture I had in my mind when we said, hey, let's get everybody together. I know that I am looking at people who meet that standard in every way, and we're just here to Thank you for it. Now, starting in just another few days, you'll begin to hear about some of the most fundamental transformations that have ever come to Indiana public education. We are going to change completely the definition and the requirement of what it takes to teach Hoosier children. Going forward, you will not enter the classrooms of this state with a teaching license unless you have proven you know the subject matter, unless you have proven that you have academically yourself and intellectually yourself what it takes. And yes, we hope you learn some things along the way about how to communicate it. But someone who can't calculate the square root of 121, I don't care really how many courses they have taken in expressing what they don't know. We are going to change what it means to be a teacher. We're going to change what it means, what is required to come to leadership. We're going to throw the doors open in new ways to people like you who come to this highest of callings because their heart tells them to, and who bring with them everything it takes to be the kind of teacher we will insist on. But taking gentle exception to just one thing in a tremendous presentation that Dr. Schlegel just made. We don't do slow, Charlie. In our administration, we don't do slow. Whenever we can move quickly, we do. And it doesn't matter what. And when you get to something as urgent and as long neglected as the problem we're met about today, slow won't work. So I appreciate the difficulty. You were really saying how hard this is, how difficult it is, and yes, it takes time. Of course, that's all true. But we're in a real hurry. Tucked into that budget, we asked for more, but told the table here, because it was, one, a good idea, two, my idea, the legislature cut it way back. But we did get a few $1 million, and we're going to add even more Wilson Fellows in the next 2 years than we already had planned. People like the fellows in this room who have proven command of math and science, the most critical of all subjects, I think, along with command of the English language, to the economic prospects, really the prospects to be informed citizens in a world in which biology will be transforming our lives every day, for instance. An exciting prospect to me is that we can really begin to move the needle in terms of the average acumen, the average content knowledge of the math and science teachers in low-income and vulnerable population classrooms of this state, with a few hundred such people. It doesn't take 1 million. We've got, 60,000 teachers, something like that, in every level, every class in this state. Boil it down to high school or middle school on. Look at the number of science teachers we really have. 200 or 300 Wilson Fellows will move the needle. So we will work on those things that can only happen over time, those long-term transformations. 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, you won't be teaching in an Indiana school unless you met those new thresholds and standards that I was referring to a minute ago. But we don't have that long to wait. And in the meantime, it's TFA. It's the New Teacher Project. It's the Wilson Fellows who can jumpstart, provide a surge forward to take Indiana from where we are to the very front rank, first of American states, and one day has to be benchmarked against the world-class competition. So I just want to tell you what a treat it is to be here, to drift around, to talk to these young and not always young people individually, but to see you as I get to see you right now, You are the faces of Indiana's educational future. You are a vanguard we have waited for too long. The idealism quotient of this room right now cannot be exceeded by any similar square footage in the state of Indiana. And it's a thrill. And that's all we came to say. We wish you the very best. Godspeed and God sustain you in the difficult moments that I know must come with this work you do and the places that you're called to do it. But just know that there's a very large and very fervent fan club, and I'm an officer of it, that's behind you all the way. And that is just so deeply grateful to you for the kind of people you are and the kind of challenge you have taken on. The better education, the superior education of the young people, every last one of them in Indiana, is the number one objective remaining to me in the 3.5 years of public life I have left. And today is a landmark step forward toward its success. Thank you very much.